Silver was the lifeblood of the Roman economy. Gold was too scarce and bronze didn't have any intrinsic value in it. Silver was the only precious metal abundant enough to have sufficient coins struck to allow an economy to work. But when bad times came and not enough silver was going around to pay for the empire's apparatus, more and more copper was added to the coins, bringing the once splendorous silver coinage on an inflationary spiral that left it at just a disc of bronze with slithers of silver in it. So let's take a look at this coin I have right now. It is not silver, but it is not pure bronze either. It has a layer over it. It is silvered. During the end of the 3rd century AD all the way to the late 4th century, the Romans developed very smart techniques to silverplate their coins, giving them the appearance of something made out of silver, while the coin metal itself only had trace amounts of the precious metal in it. How did they make this? What is this shiny layer over our coins, and why did they bother doing it in the first place? That's what we're exploring today. There is no doubt that the Romans were spectacular metallurgists and chemists. From their mass production of steel for the Roman war machine to the fine jewelry and of course the coinage, par on par with Greek coins as the very best coinage from the ancient world. However, another thing the Romans were fantastic with was in developing ways of scamming people with their technical knowledge. Private individuals engage in all kinds of frauds and illicit activities related to money, from shaving bits of silver off a coin to creating highly realistic plated copies of silver and gold coins that only had a thin layer of precious metal over a base metal core. A technique that required people with artistic skills to engrave dies similar to the originals, as well as technical knowledge and the infrastructure to make the forgeries. You needed a lot of stuff and a really powerful furnace to mint fake coins. But not only criminals engaged in fraud, oh no. The Roman state had all sorts of tricks up their sleeves when it came to hiding the fact that they were reducing the amount of silver on their coins. They couldn't straight up make fakes. This would collapse the trust on the Roman state and its currency. What they did, however, was to improve the appearance of their coins with a method called depletion silvering. If your coin with less silver and more copper starts to lose the appearance of pure silver, prior to striking it, you heat up the flan, drop it in certain kinds of acids. These acids leach the copper just from the surface, and as you strike the coin, the hammer blow flattens the superficial layer of pure silver, giving the coin an appearance of good silver. Let's take a look at this coin. I love this piece. This is an Antoninianus of Emperor Valerian. It is in spectacular condition for the type, and it shows how refined did this technology get. It is hard to believe such a coin contains only 25% silver. I mean, look at it. It looks like pure silver. That's how they left the mint, pristine, looking like pure, pristine silver. It's impressive. Unfortunately, if we were to commit the sacrilege of cutting this coin in half, please don't ever, by the way, we would find the coppery looking core, and we would see that this pure silver layer, this beautiful coin here, only has like a few micrometers of thickness in it. But what happens when you take this little cheat too far? When you drop all the way down to 8, 6, 3% silver content, you just can't do this anymore. There's not enough silver to pull your little trick, and everyone now knows your coinage is a fraud. Trust in money. The trust in the money a state issues is one of the most important powers that state has over its populace. By engaging in decades of inflationary policy with their coinage, the empire risked having its population simply abandon coinage altogether, and this would seriously cripple the state's power to maintain armies and to pay for its own expenses. To try to solve this loss of confidence on coinage, the Roman state started plating coins with a thin layer of silver. A desperate move to try to give an image of quality and legitimacy to the coinage they themselves ruined. And when I say the layer was thin, I mean it was thin. I'm putting on screen now a microscope image of what a cross-section of the silvering layer looks like. It is just a couple of micrometers thick. Here's my personal best example of a Roman silver coin. This is a piece from Emperor Tacitus, and at first glance it does look like a pure silver coin, despite some incrustations on the surface. The reverse is also pretty much untouched, with an even layer of silvering covered its surface and no pieces of copper poking out. Of course, this method wasn't flawless. As you can see on this other coin here, after some very gentle circulation, this layer would start peeling off, exposing the coppery looking coin. Now comes the key question of this video. How did they do it? This alone is a very impressive feat of chemistry. Remember, we're talking about pre-industrial times. Well, I've done some research and found some fascinating theories on how they did it. I'll leave a link to both papers on the video description down below, but let me illustrate the latest theories on how the Roman mints achieved silvered coins. The first paper I found is called Experimental Investigation of Silvering in Late Roman Coinage by C. Vlacho, J. G. McDonald, and R. C. Janaway at the University of Bradford. In their paper, they highlight that the simplest and most obvious technique of dipping the coin in molten silver or molten silver chlorides was unlikely to be the method used. First, because it resulted on coins with very bad silvering and uneven surfaces. Also, this technique was very inefficient in the use of silver, resulting in excessive costs for the mint. Finally, the demand for coins was in the millions. Therefore, manually dipping individual coins in molten silver was very time-consuming, so we might as well discard this theory. And what they suggest instead is a very old technique called amalgam plating. It consists of mixing mercury with small amounts of silver, creating a paste or some sort of mercury-silver mix, and then mixing the whole batch of coins in it. This mercury-silver mix would stick to the coin's surface through chemical reactions. Next, the treated coins would be heated. Mercury boils away at a very low temperature for a metal, 357 degrees Celsius. This would boil the mercury off the surface of the coin, leaving only this microns thick layer of pure silver with traces of mercury on it. Surface analysis on plated coins do show small amounts of mercury in them, which seems to reinforce the theory. Another interesting theory comes from silver plating technology of the late 3rd century Roman coinage by Kilian Anhauser and Philip Franz. In their research paper, they argue against the theory of dripping the coins in molten silver, but they are also against the amalgam plating theory, arguing that this technique would have to leave considerable traces of mercury on the surface of the coin after the heating process. But it turns out that when they analyzed the chemical composition of the surface of several plated Roman coins, they found very low quantities of mercury there. Just not enough mercury, implying the Romans must have used some other method to plate the coins. They then argued that the mint used a technique that was thought to only have been invented in the 17th century. This technique was called electrochemical replacement, and it works this way. First, a batch of untreated blanks had their surfaces cleaned with acid baths. After that, they would be put in a container with a silver chloride powder ground into a paste. The solution would saturate the coin surface and transfer the silver from the solution to the surface of the coin through a chemical reaction. The coins then would be cleaned using another gentle acid to remove all impurities, receive a polish for finishing, and voila, a fully silvered coin. This technique also allowed thousands of coins to be treated at once. You just needed enough of the chemical agent and the cauldron big enough to hold the coins and the paste, the whole thing together. Knowing this, how about we take a look at the multiple stages of silvering you can find nowadays on these coins as you assemble a collection. Let's start by, well, no silvering at all. This Antoninianus of Emperor Numerian used to have a silvering layer over it, but as you can see, there's nothing left here anymore. Just the bare 5% silver core of the original coin. I'm not sure if it can be appreciated on camera, but it only has very small traces of a small glint, a small shine that indicates there was some silver in there. This is the result of years of circulation, and of course of the passing of time inside its container, where it was deposited and forgotten. Some soil must have gotten in and reacted with the remaining silvering, wearing it off. We then look at this 4th century piece from Constantius II. Here, as you can see, the silvering left can still be appreciated, but it merely concentrates around the bust and the areas that are better protected from natural wear. It has acquired this gentle yellowish tone to it, which makes a nice contrast to the bronze underneath. The silvering on the reverse is actually a bit better. We can see a shiny yellowish layer all over the bronze on the flan. It actually creates a little bit of a contrast with the bronze, with the brown color of bronze, and it generates this lovely contrast. Onwards we go for this example of Emperor Probus. The silvering left is still pretty much restricted to the fields, but this time it spreads more evenly instead of just being present in random spots like the previous coin. Now, there's no doubt this coin was once silvered. Moving on to this coin of Maximianus, we now have a much more robust silvering layer, also covering the bust except for some parts here and there. Notice in this example that the silvering layer, that molecularly thin silvering layer, is starting to tone. If we look at a part over the bust, we have some reddish tones starting to form. And on the lower left part, we have some yellow accents. I particularly like this coin, and it's another cool feature of silvered coins. The silver actually tones. We're approaching full silvering. This Antoninianus of Probus is nearly fully silvered. We have this lovely consular bust here. The silvering covers all of the design, except for the highest parts of the bust and the top of the letters. By the separation I can see between Probus's year, the first part that typically wears off, and his radiate crown, we can assume this coin barely saw any circulation, which is a testament to this coin's state of conservation, but also illustrates my point on how this silvering layer started to peel off as soon as it suffered the slightest quote-unquote erosion to it. The moment it passed through a couple of hands, it already started to wear off. The reverse shows a bit better this wearing of the silvering. The body of the horses is clearly starting to show signs of the copper underneath. The letters on the legends also show some wear. And finally, we look once more at this piece of Emperor Tacitus. I would dare say this coin did not circulate at all. We can see silvering even on the highest parts of the devices. Such a shame that this piece was struck a bit off-center and the engraving style isn't the absolute best, otherwise this would be a spectacular coin, with some convincing appearance of pure silver, like the ancient mint workers of Rome wanted you to see it. The truth is that we aren't 100% sure how they did it. One thing is certain though, they found some ingenious way of producing millions of coins with a molecules thin layer of silver on top of them. That's an outstanding feat of metallurgy, and one more reason why I just freaking love the Romans and how advanced they were for their time. How about you collectors, have you got a silver-plated coin? Let me know in the comment section down below. I hope you enjoyed this little presentation. Leave a like and consider subscribing if you did. Happy collecting, and I'll see you soon.